All right, we are recording for chapter 9. Yes. So let's see. 31 of the crew have left the show. Oh, yeah. Chapter 9 of Star Trek The Mission Picture novelization. So yeah, 31 of the crew have left the ship. It's a little oddly written how this is described, but it's because they saw Epsilon 9 be destroyed. It's like, yeah, I kind of want out of here. Which, to be clear, it had been stated in the previous chapter. Kirk already said, if anyone wants to leave the mission, once you see this, that there's no judgment etched. Just go. We understand, okay? 31 left. But it does say, and this is where it was written kind of oddly, so, yeah, apparently half actually asked for a reassignment. Like, I don't want to be here at all. And please get me out of here. The others apparently were just like, do you need me? You can go if you want. It's like, because it did say that if there had not been replacements, they probably could have kept that half. But there were replacements available, so they left. Mentions that they are frozen at launch minus 21 minutes because they're just waiting for replacements to come in and other things. But Kirk is taking advantage of this time to do community building on the ship because it is necessary. You do want the ship to feel like a community so that people can trust each other, can rely on each other, and be comfortable around each other, which they don't have much time for that. So he's leaning on the whole, he's a living legend, which it even points out the whole Nagoya is kind of the one who has caused that to be the case. He's the one who built this up, but it's like, I mean, yeah, you might be built up, but you still did a great deal. It's sort of like how if you were to look through any war, you may only hear about certain generals in charge. That it's like, oh, they're the ones that won the war and kind of thing. But it's like, no. Once you actually start digging into stuff, you find that there were many others who were equally as good, maybe even more important, or at least were there at the right times to be more important. So I feel like that's kind of what they're trying to do here, is be like, Kirk isn't fully a living legend. He just has he has been made into that. He's the one that the books are written about, while others who might be as good are still out there. But I mean, he's also the only captain we got, so you don't need to do that. I will say this though, I'm a little bit more okay with this than like in the Phantom Menace, how he kept building up Qui-Gon constantly in like, oh, he's the greatest swordsman in the galaxy. It's like, because that's just that's just getting annoying, doing that, because like, what is this actually adding? Especially because it's like, well, Maul kills him, so now you have to explain how Maul can defeat him, and then again how Obi-Wan can defeat Maul, because Obi-Wan should be beneath Qui-Gon in skill, but Maul was apparently greater than Qui-Gon in skill. So how does that? That's why I would never recommend, and would recommend against, describing somebody as the best unless it is you have a defense for it there as well, not just it being said. Anyway, oh yeah, we do get a little bit of an explanation. So unfortunately, you can't see it on this chair, but I do have the armrest here can be moved around. In the movie, you will notice that the armrests are quite different for the Enterprise, and you also see it on the Excelsior in Search for Spock, where it has the armrest can actually be like moved over like this, and they clasp onto your legs, and yet that gets explained here. And I think it's dumb, but I'll still go through it. I'll explain why I think it's dumb. Kirk touched the strange newness of the center seat, looked approvingly at the new emergency motion restraints, which were fitted there as well as at all other bridge positions. Sensor controlled, they would hold him firmly in his seat despite any emergency, which would override the ship's inertia dampening system. Just how the hell did he get into the seat? The restraints were made to close over his lap. Unfortunately, they were presently in a closed position, effectively barring him from the seat. Where was the switch? Was anyone watching? The captain can't figure out how to work his own high chair? I'd like that's described as a high chair there. I mean, just that's a good touch of language. So those are meant as restraints. I always thought they were silly whenever seeing the movies. Okay. In this, I've always seen them as silly. On the Excelsior, not so much, and I'll get to that. That's more to do with the actor. Because they look to just flop around in this movie. So it's like, okay. I mean, yeah, I get that, but it's like they never seem to be locking. Whereas in Search for Spock, when the captain of the Excelsior is like getting ready to go to transwarp to chase after the Enterprise, he claps them down, and it's like a sure, steady motion there, like a strength there that's like, okay, these things are bracing me because we're about to go transwarp, okay? We're about to catch up. They're not going to have any idea. It's like this serious moment, and it feels serious. These things never did in the motion picture, though. And it's also, I do find them stupid because of the whole sensor controlled, which, I mean, I was not consciously thinking about it, but I do have a scene in A Letter from Catherine where the restraint system in the seat is activated, and it was not a comfortable experience for Roman, and he's basically like, I once heard of something called seatbelts. I think I'm going to investigate this. And when you think about it, that does make sense to have seatbelts. It also just occurred to me, why would these be in a locked, closed position? If they're sensor controlled, they should realize there's no one here. So it shouldn't be locked. Like, you shouldn't need to... I mean, yeah. I'm just thinking about how, like with seatbelts, they will lock so that they can't extend on various actions. It's like, that's sensor control, so it should be loose when there isn't something triggering that. This should have been loose as well, so it shouldn't... I don't know when that locking mechanism was invented, by the way. It's possible that it comes after this, so Roddenberry wouldn't have been familiar with that technology already existing, but it's still... Well, I mean, okay. I'm getting too technical here, okay? This is one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm being very technical beyond the point of reason. Because it's just he's trying to make a joke that Kirk is still a little unfamiliar, and also how he is uncomfortable with, did anyone see that? Because he needs to be perfect, right? He could probably, with Uhura and Sulu and Chekhov, if they saw him struggling, it would probably be okay, because they know him, they trust him, they don't trust his interaction with the chip. That's irrelevant. They would understand. Anyone else, yeah. After he's seated there, Deckard is suddenly just there at his elbow to give him a report on the status of things, which is his responsibility as executive officer, mentioning things like main systems are only up to 40% of rated capacity or less. Auxiliary systems can deliver 50 to 70%. Weapons and warp drive have not been tested. Impulse power at 80%. Kirk asks about warp engines, and this is what I actually highlighted. In my opinion, they could be trouble, sir. They should have had weeks of simulator runs for proper balancing of antimatter mix on this new design. I'm aware of that, Mr. Decker. Thank you. So this is setting up that they do have an issue later on, which proves not to be too serious, but is another opportunity to show Kirk not knowing things. But as I've already mentioned, he should know. Like, this would have been part of the design that he's studied. It's stated in previous chapters. He has studied them. He does know these designs. So, and that was a big change. So moving on, by the way, this chapter goes until McCoy is on board, and there's some fun stuff there that I want to talk about. But we do now have Uhura letting them know that their new navigator has come on board, Ilea, who is a Deltan, and she even has Uhura saying she's a Deltan. Uhura added the faintest weighted emphasis in her tone. And there are no finer navigators in Starfleet, Commander. Kirk realized there was a suggestion of reproof in his voice, and he immediately regretted it. Uhura was the last one who needed instruction in diversity from him. I'm annoyed by this for a weird reason. Uhura doesn't... there's no reason to have that comment with Uhura. Have that thought with Uhura. Because at this point, there's not supposed to be racism on her. Like, that is part of Star Trek canon, as I recall, that's not supposed to be there. Okay, that, like, her being lieutenant commander, her being a bridge officer, her being in the chain of command, she will take the center seat if everyone above her in the chain of command is gone. That's all just normal because she's just a Starfleet officer. Okay? There's no racism, no sexism there. So why does Kirk have to say that? I don't need to tell her that. However, it's Nichelle Nichols as well, who did live through a bunch of that shit that she should not have had to live through. But still, there's one story associated with it that is one of the... I would say, yes, it is among the most important stories concerning the production of Star Trek. She wanted out. She wanted to leave the show. And she was seriously considering that. But then somebody came, a visitor came, and met her in her dressing room. And told her about how valuable it was, how important it was that there's a black woman on the bridge of the Enterprise. Black woman there that all these other people are looking to and are relying on for her role. And that was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That is one of the better stories about the production of Star Trek. And there are others as well. Like, James Doohan had some. Now, true, this was actually after Star Trek. He helped, because of his portrayal of Scotty as this engineer, he actually inspired many people to become engineers themselves. And there's also a story, I'm trying to remember how it went. It was like an accident even that he got a call, somebody who was threatening suicide. And he actually managed to talk them down and then maintained a friendship with I think it was a young woman for years. Of course, there's also the whole, what was the prototype for the space shuttle named? The Enterprise. And NASA brought the Star Trek crew there to show it off. I mean, there's so many wonderful stories. And it's just, it does remind me of that. Because it's one of those unfortunate times in our own history, but hey, at least we got through it. We've gone through it. We're a bit closer to what Star Trek says we should be. But it's still, it's just, as I said, Uhura, that comment isn't necessary for her. But just because of the real history at the time Star Trek was produced, I understand why it's in there. It does go on that she had probably been trying to warn him and the other males on the bridge too. That Delton was about to enter the professional life. And it's weird because it's like trying to build up this whole, that there's just her presence is an issue and all that, and then it finally gets to the explanation, which one aspect of it, and a comment that Ilea has, seems kind of like the whole New Human stuff. I'll get to that, though. One thing, though, I did find funny. Kirk is now paying attention to people's reactions. Had noticed that Deco seemed unusually tense since hearing Uhura's announcement. That's because he knows Ilea, which Kirk doesn't know yet. Chekhov had merely looked up for an instant with an expression of "give me strength." Only Sulu did not react, apparently attaching no special significance to Uhura's comment. Now, going on from this, it's just, well, it's possible that he's never met one, he doesn't understand what's going on here. It does also say Deltons were an old and very highly evolved race. Anyway, I just find it funny because I wonder if that's a veiled reference to, crap, why am I blanking on his name? George Takei. I wonder if that's a veiled reference to him being gay. So it's like the fact that Ilea is a woman, it's like that's not actually going to influence him, but it does, give that very quick explanation, because Sulu isn't. The explanation of, he just probably doesn't know what Deltons are. But then it explains. Delton's exercise on anyone of the opposite sex went further than mere physical appearance. It was literally chemistry. Subliminal sense, I'll come back to that, sense called pheromones were released by both the Delton males and females, triggering hormonal responses in most humanoid life forms of the opposite sex. It was especially troubling to humans since the scents were outside their normal olfactory range, just as a dog whistle is outside human hearing range. But the effects of these Delton pheromones were still felt by them, and an unsuspecting human was likely to find himself in considerable sexual excitement without understanding why. It could be troublesome aboard a vessel, but was usually worth it since Deltons were superb navigators. So we actually get this explanation here, for why there's such concern. But it also just occurs to me reading through this whole where's the word? Subliminal sense called pheromones. It's like, if you can't, not sure if subliminal is the right term to use there. Because an aspect of subliminal communication, whatever it is, whether it's a scent or visuals, is the person doesn't know. So the whole then it is, it's outside the normal olfactory range. So yes, they don't know. It's like, so you're basically kind of repeating it twice. Or I guess it's explaining it, but I feel like you might be able to just drop subliminal, that it becomes redundant. But yeah, at least it is explained here, and does go on a little bit with the whole okay. The whole her oath of celibacy, that basically, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna mess with anybody. Don't worry about that. But it is also Sulu who wasn't quite prepared, because she's gonna be seated next to him. He's trying to be nice and helpful, and it's also, she is a lieutenant. But wait, so is he, but he still has to, like, apparently get up and show respect to her. Kirk did not have to. I guess because they're just equal in rank. You would think equal in rank they wouldn't need to, but anyway. You'll have no problems, it says Sulu, because he's trying to be helpful, and also cover for his just stumbling. She won't be, but you will, Mr. Sulu, thought Decker. But unfortunately for all of them, the effect would lessen considerably as Ilea became accustomed to these surroundings. Her secreting pheromones now was merely an automatic reaction to the presence of unfamiliar males. Sulu was acting about the same way that Decker had reacted when he first encountered Ilea. So when Sulu tried to stand up to also bow, he tripped, ended up reaching out like that, and it's like trying to offer, and it's like, oh, okay, handshake, but then it's like, oh, wait, no, that's not good. So he's just bumbling. But I find this odd that this, because it is an automatic reaction, they're all trying to just, keep focused on work. But she has a comment, because Kirk had said something that's like, yeah, not really what I should have said. And Decker basically tries to apologize to her. Ilea I know the captain meant no personal insult, he said to her, Decker. Ilea kept her eyes on the console. I would never take advantage of a sexually immature species, she replied. Then she looked up at Decker. You can assure him that's true, can't you? But it's like, I would never take advantage of a sexually immature species. Woman, you're the one that just walked in here, and because you're just uncomfortable around the people around you, you're setting off these pheromones that's making the situation worse. Who's immature here? They're trying not to react. They're trying, and they're succeeding. Even Sulu is not misbehaving here. He's just bumbling because, to be fair, I'm not even sure if it's appropriate to say that his tripping because of him trying to stand up, I'm not even sure if you could say that that's on the pheromones, okay? That can just happen. I'm sorry, I got an itch on my shoulder blade. There we go. I was like, that can just happen regardless, okay? It could have been the burliest dude sitting down coming over next to him, and he still could have tripped. It means nothing. All right? It's just kind of for comedy here, how it's being played up, how it's being described. Because, to be fair, he is probably trying. He doesn't want to be seen bumbling. He wants to be seen with confidence. That's fine. So that's him trying to cover for his stumble. That's fine. But it's like, you're the one that can't control yourself here, woman, not them. Don't call us sexually mature. And it's just, I wonder if this is that whole thing about the new humans that I mentioned earlier that made me think of. Is Roddenberry writing this mocking the idea of highly evolved? Just like with the new humans, they're so intelligent that when they go out exploring, they rationalize so well that they just fall prey to anyone's beliefs that they run into, any new philosophy. It's like, oh yes, and then they just lose track of themselves. He's also trying to do that here with this singular example of a Deltan, where it's like, yeah, highly evolved, but is actually the one who can't handle this. Who can't handle, I'm around unfamiliar males, I better start releasing the stuff that makes them sexually attracted to me. What the hell is wrong with you? What? And you accuse us as being immature. I'm sorry. No. Not happening. I'm not accepting that. Alright, so we got McCoy coming up, who, it's odd, I don't recall in this main series him ever having an issue with the transporters. But we do have that in here. And this scene is very similar to the movie. But we do get a little bit more of an explanation when we see his description here. He was heavily bearded and wore work shirt and pants, heavy boots, all of which fitted Kirk's information that McCoy had become something of a recluse while he researched the applications of Fabrini medicine among surface dwellers. I had to check, because like that, is that what I think it is? That, yeah, it's a reference to the episode for The World is Hollow, and hang on, let me just, for The World is Hollow and I've Touched the Sky. It's at least similar to that. I just wanted to, yes, for The World is Hollow and I've Touched the Sky, where, so the premise there is a species, civilization, however long ago, realized their star was dying, they were going to die, so they turned an asteroid into a generational ship that has a seal, so the sky isn't real, it is a wall there. But the people living on there don't realize, like they've not passed down the knowledge to them that, what's going on. But they do have a book, well, they do actually just have many archives on all of their knowledge that the civilization had before this. But everyone there, they're very simple-minded. They don't actually know what's going on. They don't understand, which is a problem, because it also means that if something goes wrong, and it did, they can't do anything to correct it. But also part of that episode is McCoy has determined that he is suffering from an incurable disease that will kill him, and he actually falls in love with the leader slash priestess, chief priestess of the Fabrini. And he decides that he will stay there. She wants him as her mate, and he's okay with that. Although there are some issues, because basically he's not allowed to have... He has to have an implant that then enacts thought police that will kill him if he misthinks. If he has a thought crime. Okay. But in any case, he gets that removed, helps them, saves the thing from crashing to a planet. The asteroid from crashing to a planet. But also, Spock was looking through and found that the archives included a wealth of medical knowledge, including the cure for McCoy's disease, so then he could return to the ship, and does so. And so this is like, just, he is in fact continuing the work with that. He just apparently didn't go back to her. Yeah. And we do also get a little bit of an explanation, because it does state in there, and you could kind of figure it out from the movie as well, that McCoy is there because Kirk wanted him. McCoy wanted out. He thought he resigned from Starfleet, but he didn't. He was just in the reserves and has been reactivated, but it was Kirk's idea. And McCoy is uncomfortable about this. Bones is uncomfortable about this. And it's like when Kirk extends out a hand for handshake, Bones initially doesn't want to take it, but he eventually does, and then it's like, yeah, it's not the handshake of somebody who's unhappy. It's a handshake of an old friend, old and trusted friend. So they're good. He's still griping, but that's just Bones. But we also get a little bit more explanation for why Kirk wanted him. He had too many questions about himself. What was different about him now? Had those 3 years down there done something to him? McCoy would find the answer if anyone could. It also has a little bit there. That's a little... Oh, okay. It also has a little bit there about that the ship's doctor is one of the most important people on the ship. In fact, he is the most important, because he's the one... I'm sorry, I just think it was stupid how it's written there. But basically the whole... Yeah, a ship's doctor can decide that the captain, you're not fit for duty, get out. So, and that part of that would be recognizing, does the captain start having delusions of godhood? Because if that's happening, yeah, definitely can't have that, need that person out. And while that's probably not going to be the issue with Kirk here, it is the self-doubt. He may need somebody to give him confidence, and Bones would be able to do that better than the others, probably, because, like, Uhura has a job to do, Sulu has a job to do, Chekhov has a job to do. Bones has a job to do, but is still somebody that's separated enough from the bridge command structure that I could see it being that, no, he can serve as a confidant that the others won't. Plus, it's in his job description to be a confidant, so... Alright, was there anything else? I feel like there was one thing that entered my mind, but it vanished then. So we should be getting Spock before long. Probably in the next chapter or two. Don't know. We'll see. We don't know how much time is left, since at countdown, well, true, we don't know exactly when the countdown would have been anyway, but we don't know when that countdown was paused, how long it was paused, so we'll find out before long, I hope. But, yeah, no, I can't think of anything else there. It's really only the two things that I have a true criticism for the writing there, and it is, like, one with, as I said, for her, the line doesn't make sense because of the history of when Star Trek came out and all that. There it makes sense. And it's just... Okay, let me put it like this. To help explain it. Explain my meaning here. Every story, by its nature, is a historical record. Because if nothing else... I've talked about this previously. If nothing else, it records the way people communicate at the time, like the specific ways people speak. But it also contains concerns and hopes of the time. Now, this is kind of both. This kind of exists in that way, but there's an issue. It is recording basically Roddenberry's hope that, the reminder that this stuff wasn't that far away for us, modern day, 79. The problem is, and this is what I was saying about how her doesn't need to say this, is this is also supposed to be a history of, the 23rd century? Where we're already supposed to be past it. That was my point, is one of those weird things where it's like, are you recording modern history, or are you recording the history the story is set in? I can't make a strong argument one or the other. I can't. But it is still, I can notice it and want to make an argument one way or another. And I think if I were writing it, I at least would have tried to word it differently, I think is the way I'd put it. I think is what I'd try to do there. And try to be no, this is supposed to be about the time this story is taking place. The history that, the modern history that I'm putting in there, because I'm writing at the time, that's going to be there regardless. So let it be the history of that time. That probably would have been my preference, but something like that is absolutely at the discretion of the author. And it's not, as I said, I can't give a strong argument one way or the other. I just know what my own preference would be. So that's basically just a style choice. So there's that. The other is the whole thing with Ilea being the sexually immature species. It's like, no. You're the one who's being immature here. You're the one who can't handle yourself around all these new men you don't know. Okay? They're the ones handling themselves the best they can, despite your actions. Okay? That's on you. I'm sorry. It's just, it does annoy me. It's just like, no. Don't be insulting us when you're the one making the mistake. Hey. Alright. Man, I'll just add this. One thing. So my Catherineverse canonically has no super intelligent alien life encountered by humans. Technically, it has been stated yet. Technically, intelligent alien life does exist, but it's always been found after it's died out. That's going to come up more so in a future book for that. But that's the canon there, because this way I just don't have to worry about it. There is alien life, yes, where it's plants and animals and bacteria and such on planets. That's all been encountered, but not super intelligent alien life. So it's like, yeah, I'm kind of glad I do that, because I don't need to worry about some of this stuff. But I do have other stories in mind that will get me to having to deal with other alien species, super intelligent alien species. And technically also a story that will get into the essentially history of racism and such in the Catherineverse, because there is actually some there. It's I don't really mind sharing because it is Star Trek related. There's one episode of TNG, I can't remember the name of it, where they have I can try to keep it short. They have a colony that's basically all Scottish, and I think that simultaneously that is appropriate, that makes sense, but also that is not healthy. So I do think, and this will be when the future Catherineverse stories, I'm not sure when I'll write it, but that you will see planetary colonies, and this I would just predict in general as well, planetary colonies that will be initially monocultural. because you're having to put a community on a new planet. It helps if they are all together, that they are somewhat homogenous, just like that Scottish planet. But I do also see that as, well, eventually they're going to stay that way. It's like it's not like Chinatown or Little Italy inside of a city, where their borders are other cultures. No, they're going to be alone on a planet. They might have traders coming in and out, but that's going to be a very, very small interaction. So I actually do believe that in a situation like that, you will start to see old divisions, old tribalism and such return that had already been defeated simply because we're around people, such a diverse group of people already, that even though the superculture might be the same, like, the basic laws and sense of morality might be the same, but various differences between people still exist. That's what I mean by superculture versus singular cultures. But this is going to be a monoculture, and it's not going to have neighbors. So I do think that is a concern. That will be interesting to explore, and that would be exactly the line for her there. That it's like she doesn't even know. It's like, now if she actually, like, if that were the setting for Star Trek, and it isn't. If that was the setting, you would need to have that same, because she would be so different, because she would basically be from one of those other planets, that somebody from other planets, especially because it seems like predominantly the Enterprise crew is white. If she's from a planet that it's all black people, for one thing, she wouldn't have much familiarity with white people, but they would have even less with her, and they would be the dominant. It would be problematic. There would be problems there. And it is just, it's an interesting topic to explore, and I do think that's a setting, my Catherine verse. For the record, the stories currently in that are after the events, after consequences of that. The story I have in mind for exploring it technically takes place before all of them. Okay, just to be clear on that. So it is I call them Ship Catherine and Letter from Catherine, and the next book I know is also going to be in there. Those would be considered post-racial, but I have one story for it that will be during that racial time. Okay, just to explain that, and it is, I think, worth trying to explore. I think it's an interesting concept as well, and I think it is something that would end up happening. Sadly, just the whole monoculture thing. I do think that is exactly what could end up happening, and I don't know what the result would be from that. Like, yeah, I don't know. What would you end up seeing as far as, would there be some way to move beyond the division that I think would happen? Or would it instead linger on because the isolation can remain? Alright, that is certainly enough of my blathering, and I will admit that was probably blathering. I love Star Trek. I love science fiction, so there's so many interesting thoughts that I've already had and thought through, like for that one story, and it's just I want to be able to talk about it. I like sharing stuff. So anyway, see you next time.